All right, today we're going to tackle a book that takes one of our most common ideas and just flips it completely on its head. We're doing a deep dive into Erich Fromm's classic from 1956, The Art of Loving. And get ready, because this explainer challenges the very way we think about love.
You know the phrase, right? Falling in love. We hear it everywhere, in songs, movies, you name it. It makes love sound like, I don't know, an accident? A force of gravity you have no control over? Something you just stumble into if you get lucky?
And this is the radical question Fromm asks right from the get-go. He basically says our entire approach is backward. We treat love like winning the lottery, when really it's a skill, an art. You know, just like learning to play an instrument or paint a picture. It takes practice, knowledge, and real effort.
And here you can see the two worldviews, side by side. The normal approach is all about making ourselves more lovable. Being more attractive, more successful, more interesting. But Fromm's view flips the script. He says the real problem isn't about being loved. It's about our own ability to love. It's not about finding a perfect person. It's about developing the capacity for loving within ourselves.
So, why is learning to love so crucial? Well, according to Fromm, it's the only real answer to the most basic, fundamental problem of being human.
To really get love, first we have to talk about this feeling of separateness. See, unlike animals, we humans are aware of ourselves. We know we're individuals, separate from the world and from everyone else. We know our life is short, that we're kind of helpless, and this awareness, Fromm says, creates this unbearable prison of isolation.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. Every piece of anxiety we feel, if you trace it all the way back, comes from this deep feeling of being cut off. And Fromm argues that overcoming this separateness is the most powerful need we have as human beings, bar none.
But before we find the real way out, we got to look at all the escape routes we try to take, the ones that, in the end, just don't work.
Fromm points to three main ways we try to cope. First, what he calls orgiastic states. Think of these as intense, temporary trances where you kind of forget yourself. Second, and this one is huge today, is conformity. It's the pressure to fit in, to think the same and look the same as everyone else. It's that impulse to erase your own uniqueness just to feel like you belong. And third, there's creative activity. Building or making something to feel connected to the world.
So why are these dead ends? Well, because they're incomplete. Those orgiastic states, they're intense, sure, but they're super temporary, and the anxiety always comes rushing back. Conformity might feel safe, but you're giving up your individuality. It's a fake unity. And being creative, while it's amazing, isn't interpersonal. It doesn't solve that feeling of being separate from other people.
And all of this brings us to Fromm's real answer, the one complete solution to this whole problem of existence, what he calls mature love.
And this is maybe the most important idea in the whole book. Mature love is not about losing yourself in another person. It's a paradox. It's about achieving this incredibly deep union while staying a whole, independent individual. As he puts it, two beings become one and yet remain two. That's the goal.
Okay, so how do we do it? Fromm says we have to start seeing love as an activity, something you do, not something that just happens to you. And the main way you do love is by giving. Now, this is not about sacrifice or being a doormat. For Fromm, the act of giving is the best expression of your own power and vitality. When you give, you feel most alive.
So what does this art actually look like? Well, it's built on four elements that all depend on each other. It all kicks off with care. Fromm uses a perfect analogy. If someone says they love flowers but always forgets to water them, we wouldn't believe their love is real. Love is the active concern for the life and growth of the person we love. It's action.
And care naturally leads to responsibility. Now, this isn't some heavy duty or obligation. Think of it in its truest sense, being response-able, having the ability and the readiness to respond to another person's needs. It's a totally voluntary act that just says, hey, I'm here for you.
But responsibility without respect? Well, that can just turn into control and domination. Respect is being able to see a person for who they really are without any illusions. It means you want them to grow and be themselves for their own sake, not to serve you. It's the key that keeps care from becoming controlling.
And finally, none of this works without knowledge. And we're not talking about knowing their favorite movie. We're talking about a deep, empathetic understanding. It's about getting to the core of another person, understanding what makes them tick.
You see how they all work together, right? This deep knowledge is what makes your care, responsibility, and respect genuine.
So we've got the components, but Fromm's last point is a real mind-bender. He says that this kind of love, it can't just be for one person.
We've all heard this one, right? And our culture often reads it to mean that loving yourself is selfish and that you should always put others first.
But Fromm just turns this whole idea on its head. He asks us to think about it differently. What if they aren't opposites at all? What if loving yourself the right way is the very thing that makes it possible to truly love anyone else? And this distinction is everything. Selfishness and self-love are polar opposites. A selfish person, Fromm says, is actually deeply unhappy and doesn't love themselves at all. They're constantly trying to grab things because they feel so empty inside. But true self-love is when you apply that same care, respect, and knowledge to your own life. You invest in your own growth not out of vanity, but because a whole person has so much more to give.
So here is the huge takeaway. For Fromm, love isn't just a relationship you have with one specific person, it's an orientation, it's a faculty, a skill you develop in your character. Think of it like this. When you learn to play the guitar, you don't just learn one song. You learn the art of music, and once you have that skill, you can play countless songs. Love is the same. If you really learn the art of loving one person, you've developed a capacity that extends to everyone, to the world, to life itself.
In the end, the art of loving is a profound challenge. It reframes love from some mysterious feeling we hope to find into a discipline we have to choose to practice every single day. It demands our focus, our patience, and a real commitment to our own growth. And so the final question it leaves us with is a really personal one. Are we ready to stop waiting to fall and instead start learning the art?